Yo, what's good YouTube, man? It's Gabriel with Another Fan TV. Back at you with a video. At the content of this video, go smash that like button at the content of this channel. Go hit subscribe, man. Look, so today I wanted to do Ravens Midseason Award. I saw that the Ravens writer Clifton Brown did his own Midseason Award article on the Ravens website. I'll probably put the link in the description to that. So it gave me the idea that I should give my own take on it, spin on it. And some of these guys that I'm going to mention obviously deserve to be mentioned at this point in the season. And, I think it's a fun thing to do before we get past the midpoint season. Then it's too late to do the video, right? So I think it's the perfect time to do it. So we're just going to hop right into it, all right? So we're going to go for Team MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, Biggest Surprise, and then Top Rookie, right? So that's how we're going to do it. So I'm not going to leave the MVP to the end because there's no reason to keep it a secret. It's obviously who it is. It's Lamar Jackson, right? Lamar Jackson has been the MVP of this team. Hell, he might be the MVP of the NFL this year. His play this year in a new offense has been really, really good. He's been, I think, the player that's been the most consistent week in, week out. Every week for Lamar Jackson, you know what kind of performance you're going to get. You know that you're going to get a top level performance from Lamar Jackson, right? Right now, he's on the season. He has 1954 in terms of passing yards, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So obviously the passing numbers aren't in terms of yards and touchdowns aren't amazing, but you got to account for the fact that you got the Pittsburgh game in there with all the drops. You got and then obviously down in the red zone they're just running the ball in with Gus. That could be another 3 or so touchdowns right there. So Lamar Jackson could be sitting on 15, 16 touchdowns if things go a little bit differently. But I'm not into the counting stats. I'm into watching the game. When you watch the game, you can see the improvement in Lamar Jackson's game. I think he's one of the few players that each and every year I see a better version of who he previously was, right? And that's what makes me excited about Lamar Jackson, that he's continuously and constantly growing. I watched today some of his press conference for his midweek presser, and he was just talking about how he's just getting more vocal. He's more confident. If he sees something, he wants to go to coach about it and say, "Hey, look, maybe we could do this when when the team does this or that," right? And it just comes from experience. Now, at this point in his career, he's seen pretty much every coverage you can see, and he looks comfortable, confident in the pocket. He's using his legs wisely. He never really, to me, had to depend on the run game. That was just the offense that he was in. But now, in this kind of offense where that's not really an important facet of the offense, where he has to run the ball a bunch of times, he's using his legs wisely. He's still an incredible athlete. But throwing the football, being a leader, changing plays at the line of scrimmage, noticing what defenses are doing and getting into the right play. I mean, there's been multiple times this year where I've seen Lamar Jackson pointing out what the defense is doing and get the Ravens in the right play and then have success after that, right? That's big. That's huge. That's all he wanted, was to feel like he had full control of the offense, and that right now, he has that. So I'm very impressed with Lamar Jackson. Definitely the team MVP for this year so far, and as it's going, he'll probably finish that way, right? So Offensive Player of the Year so far, midway point. Now you probably could say we'll just give it to Lamar Jackson again, but we're gonna try to spread out the love, right? So we're gonna go Mark Andrews here, man. Mark Andrews, it's no surprise. He still pretty much leads the Ravens in average statistical category. 41 catches, 47 yards, 6 touchdowns on the year. So he's up there for the pretty much the lead for everything for the Ravens. I think Zay Flowers has more receptions to him. Zay Flowers has around like 45 receptions. Mark Andrews is right there. But we also got to take into the fact that Mark Andrews did miss a game already, you know what I mean, to start the year. So, great player. What he's been able to do to be consistent year in, year out, and be one of the best players in his office is great. He got into this new offense with Todd Monken and really hasn't missed a beat. As soon as Mark Andrews came back ready to play, he was Mark Andrews, right? That connection that him and Lamar have is so special. It gets the Ravens through a lot of tough situations, and the fact that you can have a top tier tight end like this and he continuously makes plays is a great thing for the Ravens, right? So Mark Andrews right now I would say is the Ravens Offensive Player of the Year just because of how much he means to the offense, and when he's out there, you can truly see a difference in Lamar Jackson's comfort level and just the offensive comfort level as a whole, right? So when we need a big play, when it's third in, say 5, 6, we know that Lamar Jackson, first read, is going to be probably looking for like a guy like Mark Andrews, right? Because he's so reliable and dependable. 9 times out of 10, he's going to come down with that ball, right? So I think there was a crazy stat about how I can't remember it exactly, but like almost 70% of his catches, something like that, were first downs and things like that. So he's getting down the field as well. So Mark Andrews, offensive player of the year so far, right? Um, on defense, right? Defense is so many guys. It was hard to choose. That I ended up going co-defensive players of the year just because I just wanted to get. I think multiple guys deserve to be recognized on this defense, and so yeah, that's just how I decided to do it. I got Roquan Smith and Justin Madubuike as my co-defensive players of the year right now for the Ravens, and that's how I'm going to do it. Right, you know what I mean? Honestly, uh, Roquan Smith right now, 47 tackles. Well, sorry. 60. Well, let me get the right number. I'm sorry. 87 tackles in total, 47 solos, 40 assisted tackles, and a sack and a half so far on the year. Doesn't have any interceptions. He probably should have had two versus the Browns, but that's another story. Right now, he's projected to get 164 tackles on the year in total. You know, around three sacks, things like that. So he's been a really, really good player. And obviously, for me, it's more about his leadership, right? It's not really all about counting stats for Roquan Smith. It's about what he means to this defense, right? Having a linebacker that really controls the middle of the field, that controls the defense, and everybody can look to him and see somebody that's leading, right? So for Roquan, that's huge, right? I think that's why he deserves that shout out to me, honestly. All right. Now, other guy I mentioned was Justin Madubuike. Justin Madubuike, in the Ravens article, Clifton Brown did a breakout player of the year. He did Justin Madubuike, right? To me, Justin Madubuike broke out last year, right? This year, this is taking the leap from good to great, right? Last year, I think he broke out and established himself as, okay, look, I'm a true NFL contributing kind of player. Like I'm a good player, right? This year, he's gone from good to great, and that's the kind of leap he's taking. So I won't say he broke out this year. I think it was more last year when he broke out. But now, 23 solo tackles, 7.5 sacks on the year. Right now, ESPN, is saying that Justin Madubuike is projected to have 14 sacks. 14 sacks from an interior defensive lineman. Obviously, he can play inside and outside, but mainly interior. That's incredible, right? This kind of pressure from the interior, the Ravens really haven't had a guy like that in his entering his prime. We haven't really seen that for quite a long time, right? So, it's an off-season thing, but the Ravens have to find a way to keep a guy like Madubuike because what he can do is very, very rare, right? And he's taking advantage of his opportunities. He's winning, and he's a guy that's getting better each and every week as a pass rusher. So, this Ravens defense, you can name a host of guys that's playing well that could deserve to be mentioned. Like, you got your Clownies, who's having a really, really good year. Patrick Queen's having a really good year. Geno Stone has 6 interceptions, right? You could mention him in there, right? He might be in contention for the actual NFL Defensive Player of the Year due to those interception numbers, right? So just for this Ravens team, I'm just gonna go with these two guys, but it's a host of guys on this Ravens defense that you can mention, all right? Now, so then I'm gonna do top rookie, then we'll go most improved and biggest surprise. So top rookie is Zay Flowers. I mean, I mentioned him early. He leads the Ravens in catches with 45 catches on the year, 472 yards, only the one touchdown, which is probably the most surprising part. But more to come on that, you know what I mean? But his projected stats right now, he's projected to finish with about 892 yards on the year, which would be a great, great rookie season. He has a couple more explosive games. He'll pass that, right? When I went to the Lions game, I think they said there was a stat up there saying that he's like one of 2 or 3 receivers to start their career with at the time it was like 7 or 8 plus 50 plus yard games from scrimmage or 60 plus yard games from scrimmage, right? I think that streak got broken versus the Cardinals because he didn't have that great of a game, but he started off on fire. He's cooled down a little bit, but I think that's more about the Ravens are getting more people involved. Your Keaton Mitchells, your Rashad Bateman, those other guys are getting involved. Even Odell's starting to look better and better. But Zay Flowers, can't take away from what he's done. He was drafted in the first round. He looks like a first round pick. He looks like a guy that should have went higher than where he was drafted. Obviously, as a Ravens fan, I'm glad that he didn't go higher. I'm glad he went exactly where he went. So yeah, man, this is the guy I wanted throughout the process. I'm glad the Ravens got him and he's producing. So I'm very, very happy with Zay Flowers, right? I really am. So most improved. For me, most improved is only one guy, and that's Brandon Stevens. That's really it. It only can be one player for me. Most improved player so far through the midway point of the season is Brandon Stevens. Brandon Stevens is a guy that, if you would have told me going into week 10 now of the year, something like that, you're going into week 10, that Brandon Stevens would be starting for the Ravens, not only starting for the Ravens, but a key part of their defense. Not only just a key part and starting, but one of the better players on this defense, I wouldn't have believed you, right? I would have said, what happened to Rocky Scene? You know what I mean? That's what I would have said to you. I would have said, what happened to Rocky Scene? Where'd he go? Rocky Scene is healthy for the most part. I think he missed last week's game with the illness. He might play this week, but he's been able to keep him off the field, right? Brandon Stevens, what he's doing right now, I'm not saying he's a top 10 quarter or, he's shut down, whatever. But we can't deny that he's truly gotten better. When he's targeted, it's no longer a hold your breath kind of situation. The biggest knock on Brandon Stevens was, for me, he would be in decent coverage but could not find the football. That has changed. He's finding the football. Right now, he has 2 interceptions on the year, his first 2 of his career. So that's obviously a career high on the season. So, 35 solo tackles, 47 tackles total. So Brandon Stevens is having a hell of a year and deserves to be mentioned as a most improved player. He was definitely a guy that preseason, I didn't see a major role in this team for him. I thought he would, bounce around through some versatile things. So if the Ravens need a third safety out there, they'll bring in Brandon Stevens, right? No, he's been a true outside corner playing really well. So shout out to Brandon Stevens, man. Last but not least, I wanted to save this one for last. Biggest surprise because I was totally wrong about this guy, and I'm happy I was wrong, right? So for me, biggest surprise is Pat Ricard, right? Now, why is Pat Ricard the biggest surprise? I did a video maybe in mid-August, late August, and I was pretty much questioning because Pat Ricard was, he still hadn't practiced yet. The Ravens are going into a new offense. He hasn't been in it yet. Things like that. I question, does he have a future on this team? Does he have a role in this offense? Because Todd Monken wasn't a guy that really used the fullback at Georgia. That wasn't his thing. Or really, anyway, hasn't really used the fullback that much, right? It hasn't really been his thing. Pat Ricard has not only been used effectively, he's probably having, I think, one of the better years in terms of how he's being used, right? And the kind of effectiveness he's having on the Ravens offense, right? When the Ravens are struggling and they need some extra protection right in there, Pat Ricard is the kind of guy that's getting it done. So when I say, I think it's important that when you have a wrong take, you got to stand on that and say, hey, look, I was wrong about that. Pat Ricard not only has a role in this offense, but I think he is important to the Ravens going forward this season, right? And he deserves to be mentioned because he's a guy that when he's in the game, one, it's no longer predictable. It used to be whichever way Pat Ricard is pulling, the run is going behind him. Tyler Munger's doing a good thing, using misdirection, stuff like that. So that's something that's helping Pat Ricard that's not as predictable out there. But his usage rate is going down, like his snap counts is going down, but I think his effectiveness is going up, right? So I am really and truly impressed with the kind of player that Pat Ricard is. Not that I thought that he was a bad player or just simply a product of what Greg Roman did on offense, but I thought that, he really wouldn't have a role on this team. And I was wrong about that, He's not only had a role, but when he's been in the game, he's excelled. They're lining Pat Ricard him in the backfield. They're putting him at tight end. They're doing unbalanced lines where he's playing as a tackle. This guy, Pat Ricard, is one of the freakiest athletes in the NFL, right? So, shout out to Project Pat, having a great year. When he's in the game, you can feel his effectiveness helping this Ravens team going forward. Obviously, his numbers are not going to show up in the stat sheet because, he's a fullback and stuff like that. But shout out to Pat Ricard, man. He's been a really important player, I think, for this Ravens offense and is helping the offense get better week in, week out. So, to me, that was the biggest surprise, and I got to name Pat Ricard right there. So that's my list. Give me your list in the comments, man. I'll probably pin a comment down there or whatever. So, I'm going to get out of here. It's Gabriel, to Another Fan TV. I'm out.